afternoon, everyone. My name is Quita, and on behalf of Global Genes, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you all to this session on developing impactful and relevant communication and education tools for your community. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Please welcome. Our first is Serena Edwards.
Thank you so much, Quita. Thank you to Global Genes for the opportunity to join in this conversation. I am Serena Edwards. First and foremost, I am a parent advocate. My husband and I have 5 children. The youngest, Elijah, was prenatally diagnosed with rare disorder Edwards syndrome, which is commonly known as trisomy 18. My professional background is in healthcare management and leadership, and today I serve as CEO and president of the E.WE Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit. So to talk a little bit about developing impactful and relevant information for your community, I wanted to give you just a little background on Edwards syndrome, commonly known as trisomy 18. It is a rare disorder. It affects 1 in 6,000 births annually. We received our diagnosis prenatally. There are 3 types of trisomy 18, full, partial, and mosaic. Our little guy has full trisomy 18, which means he has a third 18th chromosome in all of his cells. This affects all of his organs. He is intellectually disabled. He is very little, but I celebrate sharing that he turned 4 years old this year. So he is doing very, very well. So to set the stage on how we developed relevant and impactful information, I wanted you to know a little bit about how we got started on the journey. So our experience is what led us to launching the E.WE Foundation. We felt that there were a lack of resources that provided information other than expect your child to die. We were told that our little guy would pass away in utero during the delivery process or shortly after birth. So what we realized is information about our diagnosis was there. You can Google search, you'll find information, reputable information. However, what we did not find was information for the child who actually lived. And so that's the information that we felt was relevant to our situation. And then to talking to other families, we discovered that that was information that they were looking for as well. So that led us to launching the foundation and starting the 3 programs that you see on your screen. These are the 3 primary programs of our organization: the LEAP program, the Zebra program, and Stripe. So I'm gonna go just a little backwards, just from what you see. I'm gonna start talking about the Stripe program. Stripe is our economic assistance program. We felt that this program needed to be developed because based on our experience, we knew that our little guy would be covered under our life insurance the moment he was born. However, calling the life insurance to get more information, we learned that they would only cover burial and funeral expenses if he lived to see 6 months old. So calling other life insurances to see how they did things, we were hearing that same conversation. We found one life insurance company that said they would pay out at 14 days. So we felt that the Stripe program was an opportunity to remove some of the burden that came with having to bury your kid. Because the reality of it is, we know not every trisomy 18 child will live. We know that not every trisomy 18 child will live to see their first birthday or ever even be born. And so we wanted to create that program to offer support. But again, that was really our experience and getting information from those in the community who had been on this journey. The Zebra program, that is our mental health, comfort care, end-of-life solutions program. When you're dealing with a diagnosis like this, it's important to have someone to talk to if that's something that you desire. For us specifically, I was told to find a support group. And I think peer-to-peer support groups are great. But I also think we were missing in the community something a little bit more personable. And so something that really spoke to living with medical complexities if your child survived. And so that was why we created the Zebra program. Again, everything was birthed from our personal experiences and experiences that we captured from conversations with patients in the community. So our LEAP program is our education program. And knowing that we have a medical definition, a medical description of what trisomy 18 is, that's not something we were trying to bother. We wanted to provide educations to families on how do you navigate this journey when your child survives. So the LEAP program, we are an approved continuing education provider, which means we can offer CEUs to healthcare professionals. And we wanted to do that to incentivize healthcare professionals finding value in our information. We wanted to provide information for patient communities, but we also wanted practitioners and social workers and nurses to attend our events and walk away with information about trisomy 18 and a different perspective that they can take back to the healthcare space. So we have 3 components that make up our LEAP program: health literacy, community education, and patient advocacy. Health literacy is really empowering patients to understand what they're dealing with. A lot of times in the rare disease space, you get the diagnosis and you have no idea of what's next. And so health literacy, it really just promotes awareness about knowing what you're dealing with and being okay with saying, I don't understand. What does this mean? Sadly, in the rare disease space, a lot of times the practitioners who are delivering the information may not know a lot about it too. But the whole goal here is to create that conversation and be comfortable in leading it. Our community education program is an opportunity to interact with peers. And this is really focused on inclusion. Our little guy, again, celebrated his 4th birthday this year. And so he transitioned to the special education program in our school district. So community education really speaks to how typical children deal with non-typical children. How do you interact with people with disabilities? What is that level of discomfort for those of us who don't have disabilities to make us hesitant or reluctant to interact with folks who do have disabilities? And so community education is an opportunity to speak to trisomy 18 specifically, but to also speak to special needs and special education and disability just across the board. Our patient advocacy program, it really promotes effective communication between patients and their healthcare providers. It's simply just that. The whole goal with patient advocacy is to let folks know it's okay to tell your doctors you want something different. That was something that I had to learn on the journey of ours. I really don't like that plan. Is there another alternative? Is there another solution? But then too, patient advocacy is an opportunity to help patients know the difference between complaining about your experience and advocating for your care. And so it's really an opportunity to empower the patient voice. And also under patient advocacy, we have stepped over into legislative work. It is not something that we promote as a service, but if we do come into patients who are interested in legislative actions, we do connect them with our partners that we work with on that front. So to recap, if you are a patient organization or if you are a patient feeling like you're missing something in your community, when it comes to developing resources, think about what resources and educational tools are missing. Think about, is that something you're able to create? Is it something feasible to create? Is it something already invented that maybe you can collaborate with another organization about? I will say that that's something that we attempted. We reached out to other T18 organizations to see if what we were thinking was even necessary. And we received the blessing of of a couple of them because what we wanted to bring to the table wasn't here, and they actually refer us patients even today. When it comes to being impactful, think about, is your experience enough? A lot of times we rest on our experience and our experience alone, but really to be impactful and reach a bunch of people, a lot of people, you need to hear experiences of other people too. And that goes back to the whole conversation that we hear often about being okay with sharing your story. You want your information to be relevant. What are the needs of your community? Have you looked at all the different perspectives? Are the tools that you're looking to create, do they meet the needs of everybody? Are they just centralized to one group of people in your patient community? So I think that's important to really break down what you're trying to present and offer to make sure it's scalable and it reaches everybody in your community. Communication. How will you communicate the resources? How does your audience want to receive the resources? That can be social media, your website, your newsletters, however you feel your patients want to receive that information. I would explore every opportunity. Of course, now we're in this digital space, and I think that's really taking precedence over a lot of other ways to connect, but that's an opportunity to still expand and learn how patients want to receive information digitally. In terms of education, what information does your audience want to learn? What information are they looking for? Is it out there and they just don't understand it, or is it just not present just yet? That could be webinars, modules, classroom settings. How do they want to access it? Tools, what tools do you want them to walk away with? And I put on here roadmaps and digital toolkits, tangible handouts, but really tools can be just a wealth of resources. Specifically, I know for us, tools that we needed were access to early intervention and access to therapeutic services, things that were not offered to us. We spent the first 6.5 months of Elijah's life on hospice. And so just really dissecting what the needs of the community are and then making those accessible to everybody. And then that's a perfect segue to the last one, community. Who makes up your community? I think it's important when you're developing resources and information to share, you know who you're sharing that to. It could be patients, it could be practitioners, it could be specialists, it could be a bunch of patients who still don't understand, right? So I think it's important to make sure you know who makes up the community so you can reach everybody that you're trying to. Nobody's left behind. That's the whole goal. So that's really a nutshell of what I wanted to share with you guys today. This is my contact information, my email address, Twitter and LinkedIn. I've also shared our personal Facebook and Instagram for anybody who's interested in knowing more about Elijah and his journey. We do a lot of social media posting, a part of our storytelling. And then at the very bottom is information about our foundation. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and that is a link to our website. Please, if you know someone or if you yourself feel that we can be of assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to us. So thank you so much. And thank you to Global Genes. And I'll turn it back over to Quita.
Thank you, Sarita. I'm trying to pull up my screen now. Make sure. So I'm Quita Christison. I work at Nextstep. And we work with teens and young adults who are living with chronic illnesses, including rare disorders, rare diseases, kind of that whole umbrella term. I myself am living with pycnodysaustosis, which is a rare genetic disorder that impacts about 1 in every 2 million births. So it is one of those like ultra rare, which can be very fun, but also not. So Nextstep, again, we work with teens and young adults. They're coming out of the pediatric space, or maybe they're still in it, at 16. We're trying to get a little bit more ownership of their narrative, of their lives, what's coming up next. And we try and get them to their adult space. So at Nextstep, we really focus on, the isolation, the illness mindset, and medical transition. So we want to take these young people from feeling that isolation, that stigma, that disempowerment that can come along with having a real, full medical life. And we try and get them to get out of the social isolation. So we have them come into a community. We're really about community, music, and mentorship. So we try to get them involved with their community. Meeting other people can absolutely change your perspective. It can make you come out of that isolation. You see that you're not alone. You might meet people that don't have the same diagnosis as you, but they might have very similar impacts. And so we think that it's incredible that we have the umbrella term with all rare disorders, and we encourage people to come together because, again, some of us are ultra rare and we might not ever meet another person with our condition, but we can meet people with similar impacts, and that can be incredible. We really want to take our young people to that future growth mindset so that they can start to, again, take ownership. We want them to have goals, to have a plan, to really look to that future that they may not have thought of before, because they're so in that moment of, I just have to get through day to day and focus on that. And then we really want to focus on their health advocacy. How do you advocate for yourself if you're not really aware of what you're going through and can articulate or advocate on behalf of yourself? So what we really try to do at Nextstep is put the power back into the young people. We want to make sure that they get to choose how, where, and when that they're going to educate others about their condition. We want to make sure that they are in the power seat. So again, we do this through community. Bringing them together can be a really big impact. Music therapy is huge for us. So it's a culturally relevant tool for young people. Music is universal. And if they can go through a narrative process with our in-house music therapist, write a song about really whatever they want to. Is it about their diagnosis? Is it about the impact? Is it about what life has been like trying to get through high school? We want to make sure that they have the tools and they can hear themselves. So they make sure that they're putting out into the world what they want to. And then we have our mentorship. So our mentorship programs are about getting the young people to focus on what's important to them. We do offer academic mentorship, and then we also offer whatever goals that they're wanting to set. We want to make sure that, we're creating these, education and communication tools for our young people to use to put them back in the power seat so that they can, see what the future is for themselves. And that's me. I'm going to turn it over, yes, to Hope.
Remember to unmute myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Hope Newport, and I am the Family Services Manager at the International FOP Association. FOP is Fibrodysplasia Ossificans Progressiva. It is an ultra-rare disease that turns the individual's muscles, ligaments, and tendons to bone. And my background is in child life. If any of you have interacted with child life specialists in a hospital or an outpatient setting, that is my human development, very family focused perspective that I bring to the organization. And I wanted to start my time today by telling you all a little bit about how I feel connection plays a huge role in the education and the communication we're able to kind of facilitate within the FOP community. And the community connection, that's really the heart of the IFOPA, started with our founder, Jeannie Pieper, who you see here. So Jeannie took it upon herself to find the names and addresses of everyone with FOP who she could in the US and write them letters. And 10 of those individuals wrote her back. So they started off as sort of a pen pal correspondence. And over the course of that was founded in 1988, that the IFOPA became an official nonprofit organization. So over the last many years, we've grown tremendously. And in that growth, we've done some strategic planning to ensure that we're striving to meet our mission as effectively and efficiently as possible. So we have a decision was made to hire professional staff to run programs within the IFOPA's mission. And that's where I came in to help assist with family services. Throughout that, though, the community connection has been consistent. We have a board of directors that's primarily composed of individuals with FOP or caregivers who really helped to bring the voice throughout that entire planning process and continues today. And coming into my position as the family services manager, the connection within the community and the support that they provided to help bring me up to speed and make me aware of everything FOP was tremendous. And none of the programs and services that we offer today would be possible without that. So I wanted to share a little bit about just a few of our resources. I'm going to start by talking about our in-person family gatherings. So up until the last couple of years, we held these annually and we moved them around the country so that participants or individuals, patients can participate even if they're not able to travel long distances. Eventually we'll make it to their area. And when we started these family gatherings, we really focused, a huge component was the ability for patients to see in person those FOP medical, dental anesthesia experts who provide their incredible knowledge. And that was really one of the main points of these family gatherings, is that a patient was able to have a one-to-one meeting with FOP experts from the US. So we were very focused on that clinical care and giving patients tools and education to be able to be as aware as possible of the different information for their own disease management. And throughout this family gathering, the in-person meetings, we of course did have lots of opportunities for community connection, but we really brought that to the next level when we shifted to a virtual event. So in 2020 with COVID, we did not hold an in-person meeting, but we did go virtual. And so with our virtual event, we had the same presentations from our clinical experts, but there was a whole new level of community connection that came from our small group discussions, which were facilitated by community members. Another part of the virtual family gathering that was really exciting and that extended our reach to the community and helped facilitate more connection was that we were able to offer the event in 18 different languages with the help of artificial intelligence translation services. So I know anyone who's used AI translation can tell you that it's far from perfect, but from our experience, just introducing that additional resource, it helped us be able to invite community attendees from all over the world. So as the International FOP Association, we were able to really bring together community members from different parts, and that only helped boost the communication. So we've seen a lot of increased involvement in our different programs since the family gathering, largely because we were able to kind of welcome them in. And so in addition to the languages and the clinical sessions, we had kind of the starting point for those community-led discussion groups, which impacted a lot of our growth into 2021. So this year we launched a new program. It's called the Advocacy Series. And the Advocacy Series features a different topic in advocacy. So advocating in the medical setting, teaching your child skills as an advocate. And what we do is each quarter we have a community panel. So by connecting with different community members, we're able to help bring their perspective into the spotlight to share with other individuals who they may not have connected with on social media. So this kind of also, the more we talk with these members of the community, the more we've become aware of maybe some gaps in programming that we weren't hitting before. As I mentioned, we'd always focus primarily on clinical care, on disease management specific resources. But in our many conversations with panelists or with people who were looking for insight from, we became aware of other topics or areas where we could be providing support. So this year we've had many great sessions where we've had a number of community panelists who've been sharing their strengths, talking about the resources and tools that they've used. And I hope those examples give you a little bit of an idea of what, how connection has flourished and how we've strived to educate people in the FOP community through that. But I always feel like it's very helpful to have some tangible takeaways. So I wanted to share these 4 points about really incorporating connection within your communities to support education. And one of the things we do is we try to make it the center of our mission and program objectives. So the IFOPA mission statement has connecting in it, but also the Family Services mission statement is very focused on connection. And each of our program objectives are different, but we try to make sure that if we're working on developing new programming with the support of a Family Services Committee, that we're making connection either, a core element of that program, or trying to figure out how we can incorporate connection within programs. We seek out that connection and that feedback from the community. So we have committees for our different departments. I have a Family Services Committee that I work closely with. We have councils for many of our different programs. So for the Family Gathering, there's a separate council of people who advise and share their input. And then I also just would say to never underestimate the power of one-to-one collaboration. So even if someone's not on a council or a committee, or if creating a council or a committee for your organization feels intimidating for every different project, I would always encourage people just to reach out and have one-to-one conversations with people within different parts of your community, because I have had some really insightful connections with siblings that have shaped our programming in different ways that it might not have happened if I was just speaking with parents or with individuals with FOP. And then never being afraid to incorporate change. So I know that change can be hard, but I do believe that change is the necessary process for us to constantly evolve our work and reach our best finished product. So in connection with different community members and hearing their insight and incorporating their feedback, sometimes it can be one step forward, one step back, because different community members have different perspectives. But I think it's always just important to remember that any feedback you get is very critical in just understanding why a program is as it is in its more complete version. So even if some feedback isn't as helpful or isn't as relevant, it's helpful to have it because you've considered that viewpoint. And then lastly, I would just say that, working and devoting time to having these connections with members of your community to incorporating their input doesn't just help one specific program, it bridges out to all the different areas of your organization's reach. So Family Services is over here on the left of this globe, but the IFOPA is committed to supporting research in FOP, to supporting advocacy or awareness of FOP. And whenever I'm connecting with an individual about family services, it's also an opportunity for me to tell them about our biobank or our patient registry. So whenever we're able to help build those connections, it ultimately helps the organization as a whole and builds momentum for that family as well to be more involved and more educated and aware. So I know that I think that's it for me. I'm going to pass it over to Eszter.
Hello. All right. Can everybody hear me? Okay, sounds good. All right. So my name is Eszter Hars. I'm the president and CEO of the Shwachman-Diamond Syndrome Alliance. My contact information is right on the screen. connect@sdsalliance.org. So Shwachman-Diamond syndrome is a rare genetic disorder. It affects about 1 in 100,000 births or so. And so with a reduced life expectancy, we would expect to have a couple of thousand patients worldwide. Of course, not all of them are diagnosed. It's a common challenge in rare disease. It affects all parts of the body, including the pancreas and the digestive system, blood and immune system, and brain and cognition. The molecular basis of the disease is the ribosome biogenesis. So to assemble the ribosomes, and the ribosomes are large protein complexes in the cell responsible for translating the messenger RNA's information into protein. So it makes all the protein in all our cells throughout our body. So it's very ubiquitous. The biggest challenge for our patients is that the disease predisposes patients to cancer, mostly leukemia. And it's estimated to be about 1 in 3 patients by age 30. If this happens, the prognosis is very, very poor. So that's what our focus is. So in 2020, I founded the Shwachman-Diamond Syndrome Alliance to really focus on research and driving research. And that's because my background is in science. I'm a molecular biologist by training. I did my PhD on aging and leukemia, out of all things. And then 7 years ago, my second daughter came around and she happens to have Shwachman-Diamond syndrome. So as you can appreciate, driving research in rare disease towards cures and therapies is a complex process. So for today's topic, I'm just gonna focus on what we do in terms of impactful communications. For example, bridging the communication gap between the scientific community and the patient community, so that the patient community can really understand what the scientists and doctors are focused on and why. And so through education, they can have basically hope and then act on that hope to take action to really support the research process, participate in the research process. Another focus of ours is to engage patients worldwide, not just in the US, because as a rare disease, we need patients, we need to reach patients everywhere in the world. I'm just keeping a check on time. I'm just going to highlight 3 efforts we do. So when I was, my daughter was newly diagnosed, what had the most impact on me as a new family was to learn about other families' journeys and experiences. So one of the first things we did when I founded the foundation, this alliance, is to collect stories and put them up on our website and on social media to both help families understand what their journeys could look like and that there's actually hope and hope in a good quality of life, but also to help the medical community and the research community understand that all patients' journeys are unique and that they need to consider genetic causes of these issues much sooner, much earlier in the patient journey, ideally thinking of panel testing, because these conditions are so rare. It's much more efficient to catch them with a broader testing strategy. Another thing we did was to help elevate the understanding of the patient community on the basic science. Most parents probably had a little bit of biology in high school, maybe in college, but that has been a while ago. So for this, what I did, was to look on the web to find nice videos that explain the basic concepts that are relevant to our disease. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel and be able to produce beautiful videos. There are really nice examples out there. So I found nice videos that explains the immune system, genetics, basic genetics, inheritance, that sort of thing, and put it up on our website as a resource for patients to kind of refresh their basic biology knowledge. Another thing I did was to pick out the very specific concepts that are very relevant to our disease, which are not explained on the internet anywhere well at all, but are very important to understand the research that's currently happening and also the medical care that's being recommended for us. And because this is a cancer predisposition disorder, our patients go through monitoring on a regular basis, but it's not trivial what this monitoring looks like or what they are looking for, what the doctors are looking for. So I created a video and I came up with an analogy to explain this very complicated concept of clonal evolution in simple terms. So I used an analogy of a toy factory that makes a particular toy, and with our disease, the factory doesn't work very efficiently at churning out these toys, and the body compensates for this in different ways. And if it compensates the wrong way, then the patients are at risk for cancer, for example. And then finally, to reach more patients, what we did for the videos is to take advantage of free tools that are out there. So when you upload a video to YouTube, YouTube automatically generates closed captioning. And it's pretty good, but not perfect. It doesn't do any punctuations, for example, or sentence structure. So we always go back, make sure that the closed captioning in the original language is good as it can be. And then when patients from other parts of the world use the automatic translation tool, then the translation tool can be useful. And we put up this information right in the videos themselves. So in the interest of time, I think I have to wrap up, but I just wanted to say you can find the examples of our videos on our website, sdsalliance.org, under the patient tab. There's a category for SDS Science, and you can find all these videos there as an example. And so I just wanted to say about translation that even though my organization's focus is to translate the basic science into therapies and cures as quickly as possible, translation also comes into play when translating this information into a language patients can access, and then also translating this information into other languages other than English. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, everyone. So we do have a few questions from the audience that I would love to discuss. The first one I think is geared towards Sarita. They were really excited about the offering of continued education, the CEUs, and they were just wondering how you were able to kind of get those involved, grant funding, because they can be pretty costly. So if you could say more about those.
Absolutely. So we basically started here in our state. I'm in Alabama, and we reached out to one of the state boards. We had to submit an application, and because we offer the CEUs right now free of charge to healthcare practitioners, to healthcare professionals, we were able to submit our applications for free as a 501c3. So if you're planning to charge for your continuing education courses, then you have to pay the application fee for this particular organization. For this board, it was the social workers board, and some of the nursing boards, physical therapy boards. Everybody has their own application fees and process, but specifically for this one, we were able to submit our application free of charge as a 501c3 because we don't charge for our continuing education courses. As far as offerings, we spearhead those. We facilitate those as an organization. We bring in guests to lead the conversations, and the continuing educations that we're able to give are based on the duration of information that's presented. So I hope that helped.
Thank you, Sarita. We have another question about the AI translation services, especially for accessibility. And I think these are for either Hope and Eszter a little bit. What is the name of the service that you use, Hope?
Yeah, we used Wordly. They had 18 languages last year, and I know they are up to 20 right now, I think. But if it's from a disability perspective for someone with hearing loss, they do just English as well. And there's a transcript. So you can either read the translation or read the transcript, or you're able to listen to a voice. If you're someone who is able to hear, then you can listen to the translation in your language as well.
Great, thank you. And yeah, Eszter.
Yeah, we looked into Wordly too. It's a bit like a plugin to Zoom and some other presentation tools. So it's like an add-on. And for the YouTube translation tools, it's available in almost all languages, really. And I had volunteers from other countries just take a look how good the translations are. And it's pretty good. So I guess it's as good as the original input is. That's why it's so important to really edit the closed captioning. that is pretty good.
Yeah, I appreciate YouTube and Google and all the translation services that are offered for free. And I think they're getting better. I think, every day they get a little more input from user data, and I'm excited that they're getting better. Another question that I actually can answer is about Nextstep. So Nextstep, I failed to mention, which I somehow always do. Nextstep is completely free for young people. It's free services. We work with young people ages 16 to 29. We have a variety of programs that we offer throughout the year. Our flagship offering is the summer, our campferences is what we like to call them, part camp, part conference. And totally free. We work with young people from all over. In times of COVID, we are 100% virtual. And so we are doing all of our programs online. We have some sickle cell conferences that are coming up this fall, but we have some others that are slotted for the spring. So check out our website for more information. Okay, so another question we had is, how do you think we can improve the collaborative synergy between patient advocacy and medical research to establish a more optimal path to a cure? Big question. I think, Eszter, you might be fairly suited for this since you kind of have both sides to that coin. Do you want to talk about the synergy and collaborative nature?
Yeah, that is a big question, and there's going to be discussions about it in other sessions too. But what it is, basically, we want to be aware of what we as the patient side bring to the table. Right? What we bring to the table is really access to the patients, a representation of the patients, and that is our strength. Now, in addition to that, in order to drive research effectively, we really need to have a plan and be very skilled at driving research. So if you have somebody in your community who is experienced in science and driving research, really promote their work and use their work. If you don't, you need to hire somebody who is experienced in that, because it's very important. And of course, it's about funding, right? In order to have an impact, you need to have funding and offer funding to the right teams to coordinate their work so that work is not duplicated and it's going in the right direction, and that all the different work that's being done in different places converges towards the same goal. So it is a very big question, and please attend the other talks as well.
Yes, thank you, Eszter. Another question I have is, what advice would you give to advocates or communities who are looking to create more culturally competent education resources and tools?
I can start that one off. I would say to include them in the conversation. So whenever we're launching a new program, or for the family gathering, for example, our Success Council is built up of people from different areas of the world so that we're able to incorporate their input on a variety of things, from what sessions should we offer to how can we make the program guide comprehensive or the social events welcoming. So I would say really just to include them from the get-go and creating that.
I agree. I was actually going to lead that same direction. I think it's important to the people that you're trying to reach have to give some input. And I think a lot of times, we create information and education and tools, and we think that it's generalized and it's streamlined for everybody, but that's not always the case. And so I think the only way to really reach everybody is to have an everybody representation and presence in the planning piece of it.
Yeah. Do you have any advice, any one of y'all, about how to engage those stakeholders and those that we really need their voices of?
If you have a contact in that community, sometimes it's good to have a variety of people. You don't want to go to the contact for every single request, but a lot of times they can refer you to other people. Or this year, for the first time, we did a call for speakers. So for our virtual family gathering, we could have speakers from anywhere because it was virtual. So we actually put out an application and shared it, and then people could kind of self-select into being involved in different ways.
I think too, you can take an opportunity to, I think that's when kind of like Hope was speaking in her presentation, I think that's when collaboration can be key. I think you can reach out to other organizations to see, do you know somebody, even if it's not necessarily the same disease specific topic or conversation. If it's someone in the rare disease space, if it's someone who can speak to research, whatever your goals are, I think sometimes you can maximize the potential by asking other organizations to recommend someone or refer you to someone. I agree too that I think you can do that with patients and your go-to people as well. I think it's always opportunity to include more people. We just have to do it, right? We just have to do it.
Definitely. Last question for y'all. Has there been a kind of out there education tool that really resonated with your community, or something that was a little out of the box that was just an exciting try?
I know for us specifically, we were personally excited about the LEAP program because it was an education opportunity to really reach patient communities as well as healthcare professionals. But I have to say, we have gotten more feedback from our patient populations about our strike program. You don't think about the financial burden really that comes with medical complexities and living that every single day, and going into it with a goal to really help with funeral and burial costs has really expanded to where we have helped with utility assistance and generators because due to power outages. It's things that we didn't even think about when we initially set the program up. So we excited about LEAP, our patient community, super excited about the financial support.
Hope or Eszter, any?
So for us, the sharing of patient stories has been very well received, and not just by the audience, but by the families who wrote them. They told me it was kind of therapeutic for them to put their journey out there and share it with the world in their own words. So it's a win-win, really. And then for the scientific video, I think that has been also very successful because people often ask, like, why do I need this monitoring, or what does it mean if a clone pops up? And to be able to just send a short video that just explain the concept overall helps them frame their questions in their mind better so that they can ask the right question from their medical provider. So obviously these videos are not medical advice, but it gives patients a framework to how to think about it and what questions to ask of their providers.
Excellent. Well, thank you, everyone. And thank you so much to the attendees for sharing their time and the speakers for offering such important insights. Be sure to visit the evaluations tab to share your feedback on this session and the others you have attended. We value your feedback, and we want to ensure that we are able to provide great content and programming for the rare disease community. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you all enjoy the rest of the conference.